Welcome back to WNST at Fremont Mortgage. Don't make a 30-year mistake by choosing the wrong lender. You need the right lender. Get out to Fremont.com whether you're buying, selling, or maybe just thinking about jumping into the market. Fremont Mortgage there for you. Also, Box Hill Pizzeria. I eat the salad dressing every night because I pilfer it and bring it home by the bottles. They should make it in quart jars for me. Grab some crab cakes. Get a pizza with our friends up at Box Hill Pizzeria. They do ship those crab cakes, and this guy likes that because he spent some time here. You might want to go to Box Hill Pizzeria and click to ship the crab cakes to me. If he can ship me the Jack Stack in from Kansas City, I'll be nice and give him a Box Hill Pizzeria crab cake. Welcome home to Steve Stewart, one-time WBAL broadcaster, now long-time and decorated World Championship radio broadcaster for all things on the Royals Radio Network. Welcome home, or home away from home for you. I know Kansas City's home these days, and you and I have gotten together and discussed better baseball between the Royals and the Orioles than we're going to in this conversation, Steve, right?
Yeah, Nestor, we have. 2014 was not that long ago, but this past month it's felt like a long time ago, hasn't it?
Yeah, and these organizations with two different mojos. You had a big blue parade. We had a big orange and black, a sobbing party here. And, on the backside of it, when it falls apart after you've won, I know there are some people, certainly here in Baltimore, that don't appreciate Joe Flacco or John Harbaugh these days, 5 years after a championship. But in Kansas City, where it didn't happen, all of those guys will forever be loved and all of that stuff. But it is hard to rebuild, and there's a level of trust that maybe the fans have with that organization there to come out 20, 30, 40,000 strong and support a bad baseball team or a rebuilding baseball team. But it's really hard to say goodbye to yesterday, isn't it, Steve?
It is. We had Milwaukee in a couple weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, and Lorenzo Cain, of course, signed a big deal with them in the offseason. And, it was a love fest. Now, again, he had won a world championship with the Royals, but there were a lot of good memories with him, and the Royals had it for basically 7 years. And it was and the Royals were playing so poorly, and the fans loved Lorenzo so much that they cheered him. Not only did they give him a standing ovation in his first at-bat, but obviously they applauded big time every time he came up. And later in the game, in a loss, he homered, and there were few Brewer fans there, but it was mostly Kansas City fans, and they cheered pretty loudly when he hit a home run against their own team. So the love didn't end just because he left. Now, a little of that was because the Royals weren't playing well, but a lot of that was, I think, because of Cain.
Well, in the case of the Royals and this breaking up of the band, where is the hope on the next side for them? I mean, we're watching them now, and we're barely watching the Orioles around here, as you know, and the Bundy thing, and we'll get to the crowd and the Orioles side of this. But from the Kansas City side of this, we don't, give you guys a kiss much. We don't see you much out of division other than what, bad vibes we had a couple of years ago, and there was a little rivalry for 5 minutes and bad vibes after Jeremy Guthrie and the, all that stuff. But rebuilding this thing, this is where we're looking at next year or the year after. Ain't going to be any Machado around here anymore. Who knows about Adam Jones and Britton and Brock and Buck and Duquette and all the problems we have. But the life after that is, where's our next player? Where's our next star player? Around here we thought it was Dylan Bundy until recently. In Kansas City, who's going to be the next breed of player there that's going to get them back to 95 wins?
Well, those are great questions. And, you really – it sounds simple, but you really got to look to the farm system for a lot of it. I mean, some of the guys are here now, like Cheslor Cuthbert, who was slated to be the third baseman here until Mike Moustakas fell out of a tree right into the Royals' lap in the middle of March. So Moose is back for 1 year, which the Royals were thrilled to have him back. He's off to a good start. But Cuthbert, who came in 16 and played for Moose when he got hurt most of that year, did pretty well as a rookie. Has battled injuries, so there's third base, for instance. There's some pieces around that are on the major league roster, but for the Royals, it's and they did sign in spring training Lucas Duda, John Jay, and Moustakas kind of last minute to kind of fortify the major league roster for this year because Dayton Moore does not want to go to the bottom, even though the Royals are near the bottom right now, but that's not the goal. But it's really the farm system, and for the Royals, a lot of the prospects are at low A and high A right now. So that, as you know, that's going to take a while. So, it's fans kind of have to buckle up and hope that, that some of these guys that are here will mature quicker and that some of the younger guys are going to get here quickly. So it's never easy. And, It's always competitive. Obviously, we don't have the AL East to deal with, which has always been a great division, but all of a sudden the top of the East looks pretty darn scary. Cleveland has been hovering around or even under 500 recently, so that makes it feel a little less daunting, but it's still tough, no doubt about it.
Well, it feels like the door's open to the Central here. Clearly the door's shut, and you arrived in town. I had Jeff Montgomery on. I have so many of you friends of mine in the Kansas City. I didn't load up and do 12 guests from Kansas City, only a handful of you, and I was sort of warned everybody on the front end saying, you're going to be shocked what you find when you get here because they're trying to let kids in for free. That's not working. Clearly, Peter is in some advanced state of deteriorating health that is still a mystery like most things in this organization. You worked around here. You know what it was like in the old days. It's only gotten worse. In that regard, the whole Machado thing and the backdrop of being this bad, historically bad, and then to see Dylan Bundy on Tuesday night and to see that there were literally 500 people left in the stadium in the sixth inning of the game, right?
Well, Tuesday was rough, no doubt about it. But and I know that you're no big fan of a lot of the things the Orioles do. But I'll say this: they're not this bad. Just like the Royals aren't this bad, and the Royals have begun, at least coming into town here, had begun to play a little better of late. And, there's too many good players on the Orioles team for them to be this bad. I mean, I don't know where they'll finish or what the record will be, but it'll be better than this. And also, I know just like us, our crowds have been down this year for a variety of reasons. We're basically a year ahead of what the Orioles are. The Orioles are trying to do this year what we were trying to do last year, which was kind of one more run with this core. And for the Royals, they wound up coming up short. In fact, they wound up with 80 wins, 80 and 82. But they figured, well, when's the next time we're going to be this close to the postseason? Let's give it a shot with this core one more time, and that's what they did. So, and the weather, I think this is the first sort of warm homestand they've had, and we've had miserable weather. I mean, we play in the coldest division in baseball, and even Kansas City is the warmest spot, and it's been freezing there too. So. This whole first month has been just a bad dream for both these teams.
Steve Stewart is our guest. He has been the Royals radio voice for a number of years, as well as spending a long time here in Baltimore, WBAL as well, and you come back and see this Dylan Bundy thing. But the Machado is the real story here, right? And what's going to happen to him and what's going to become of the Orioles. And, the Royals could have done some trading off last year, right? Like, they could have sold some guys off for some parts. That wasn't popular around here when you were around with the B.J. Surhoff era and when Sid Thrift was running the place and all of that. But it's so necessary, right, to the lifeblood of a franchise. And you see, even what the Yankees did 2 summers ago, that was considered a sell-off that's been beneficial to them. There does come a point where you have to make some tough decisions and some trades to fortify. And if the Royals had a little bit more of a sell-off afterward, they would have a more stocked farm system right now.
Well, you're right. Although, as Dayton Moore's pointed out, I mean, we all remember the 90. I'm trying to think. I guess it was the 98 Marlins. You remember they won the 97 World Series.
Sure.
And then Wayne Huizinga, the late Wayne Huizinga, and his people completely blew it up. And they came out and were like a 100-loss or 90-loss team the next year. And it was almost like it was a mirage, like it never happened. And Dayton Moore has often said that when the Royals won in 15, that core was basically they had through 17. The time to sell Sal Perez and Eric Hosmer, if you were going to do it, would have been right out of the World Series, right after the parade. Well, how would that have looked, right? So he felt like he owed it to the fan base, just like I think the people running the Orioles feel like they owe it to the fan base with guys like Machado and with Jones and Britton when he's healthy and Brock. When they have these guys, hey, these are all, potential all-star type players. Let's see what we can get out of these guys. The tough thing is, you're right, is do you flip them? When do you do it? And what none of us know, only the people in the warehouse know, or in Kansas City in the front office know, is what are the offers? Because the impression that I got from the Royals last year was that there were not a lot of great offers out there. So Kane and mainly Kane and Hosmer, and to some degree Moustakas, he kept them till the end. And what we don't know every phone conversation that goes on. We don't know what's out there. There has to be a specific need, on the other side. Like, we know the Dodgers need a shortstop, obviously, but where are they on their luxury tax threshold, and what are they willing? Even though they're supposed to have a pretty deep organization, what are they willing to give back? And we don't know any of that. That's the tough thing about being a fan, is we're not privy to that stuff. So it's a tough go, and so I don't know what to tell you, but we'll see. Obviously, it would not be a surprise if, let's say, Manny winds up getting dealt somewhere, and you would hope it would be some nice pieces coming back. And the Royals may do that too. I mean, Kelvin Herrera's a free agent at the end of the year. The Royals kind of did a little bit of both. Before 17, they did trade Wade Davis, and a lot of fans were not happy. They traded 1 year of Wade Davis for 4 to 5 years of Jorge Soler. Well, all of a sudden, Soler, who had kind of a lost season last year, was injured and underperformed and didn't look ready for the big leagues, really. All of a sudden, he's like a beast now, and the Royals have him, I think, through 2021. So now, would the Royals have been better last year with Wade Davis? No doubt, because Herrera struggled at times and hadn't been a full-time closer before. But Dayton Moore was kind of thinking about the present and the future. He also traded Gerard Dyson for Nathan Carnes. Carnes is a pretty good right-handed pitcher. Now, he hasn't been able to be healthy this year yet. We don't know when he's going to be back, but when he's been in there, he's been good. So he did trade off some of the parts before 17, but he kind of kept the main core together.
Steve Stewart is our...
It's tough, Nestor. Yeah. You know that.
Yeah, Steve Stewart's our guest from Kansas City. You'd say all that, and who's making the deal is so important, right? Like, there is a trusted guy there making the deals that the fans trust and say he built it the first time. There is that pain of that, and you have to take advantage of stinking, right? When you stink, you have to draft your franchise quarterback, right? When you stink, you better get a pitcher in the draft if you're pitching in the top 5, or you better get Manny Machado. You better not miss on your scouting, and if you're dealing Manny Machado off or you're dealing Chris Sale off, you better have the right guy making that decision. Certainly Kansas City has a decorated guy. I don't know what we have in Baltimore right now, whether it's Brady Anderson or whether it's Dan Duquette. Certainly the ownership's still very much a mystery. I call it Willy Wonka around here. No one comes in, no one goes out. And Brady Anderson's been charged with some of this. Steve, I'm crazy, but I got excited when they signed Cashner for a year. And I thought the Cobb thing was a real sort of, they're going to have a real pitcher out there 4 out of every 5 days. And if they have a real pitcher out there and they hit the ball well, I thought they could win 85 games. And that's not, that's not a lot of games. That's a little bit better than 500. I thought that's where they were when the season started. I don't think anyone could have predicted this incredible deterioration of Chris Davis.
No, I mean, and I agree with the pitchers they brought in and with the hitters they have, who have obviously gotten off to rough starts, and they're going to get hot here at some point pretty soon. I hope it's after the Royals leave town, but I wouldn't bet on it.
So far, so good.
Even in that blowout loss Tuesday, they still scored 7. Now I know Blaine Boyer was having trouble in that last inning, but bottom line is there's talent on this team. They're going to turn it around. The question is, how soon and how many wins can they pile up? I have no idea, but they're definitely better than this, no doubt.
Last thing for you, and I guess sort of a global thing. You're going around baseball right now. It's outside of Kansas City and Baltimore and Chicago, a couple places where it's not going well right now. It's a good year for baseball. I mean, the Red Sox and the Yankees getting back, as much as we hate it. They had their era of both scuffling and spending money and wasting money and eating contracts and controversies with A-Rod and all that stuff. Now they're back to beating each other up, playing 700 baseball. We sit around and wait for October, and then it'll be up to the Houstons or the Clevelands or whomever to try to knock them off. But that's good business for baseball, the Red Sox and the Yankees. And I think also in the National League where Atlanta and Philadelphia have been resurrected, and you mentioned your problems in Kansas City. Philadelphia was the first example of we love all of our players. Let's give them all $1 billion because they won a championship. And then 3 years later saying we gave Ryan Howard what?
Yeah, they went a little overboard as it turned out. Again, 20/20 hindsight. And Ohtani's a great story. We've seen him in Kansas City. I know the Orioles are just on the West Coast out there in Anaheim. He's a great story. We were going to see him pitch in Kansas City, but it was 31 degrees on a Sunday, and they called it off. Just a few minutes beforehand. It's just a bizarre April. But yeah, there's a bunch of good stories. And Paxton the other night with a no-hitter up north of the border, and there's a lot of good stories around the game. I've always been a parity guy, and baseball just the last year or so has begun to get a little bit away from that parity again, where some of the top is up at the top again, and some of the bottom, teams that are rebuilding and stuff. I like it more when it's more even, when it's more wide open. But it's a great game. It's been through a million cycles, a million fads. All the shifting now and all the metrics that they look at, and the game's constantly evolving and changing. But the beauty of it is it's every day, and you never know which. Even when you're having a bad start and you've lost a lot. You still never know what's going to happen each day when you show up at the ballpark, and that's the beauty of the game.
Well, you sit in a beautiful ballpark every night watching baseball out there. You get barbecue, nice big parking lot there on the edge of the freeway. You had a parade. Hey, I get to come to Kansas City this year. The Ravens play the Chiefs in December, so I will be seeing you out there around the holidays.
Very nice.
I love the Christmas lights there, Country Club Plaza, so all is well. Steve, always appreciate you picking up the phone and talking some baseball with us. Welcome home for a little while here. Have a couple crab cakes, and we'll still be in last place when you get back. How about that?
Hey, Nestor, good talking to you.
Steve, always a pleasure. Steve Stewart from the Royals Radio Network. He's been a long-time broadcaster there, and you may remember him from his days at WBAL. He called some Orioles baseball back here about 15 years ago as well. You can find me in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, all over the place, including our morning newspaper that delivers to your email inbox each and every morning at 7 a.m. It is all brought to you by our friends at Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. We're getting ready for racing next week. The entries for Pimlico this week up at WNST.net, as well as in our aforementioned morning newspaper. Any breaking news, you'll get that first on the Coons Ford WNST Tech Service. Dennis Colatzos will be here on Friday, driving you home from 3 until 5. That's Friday, not Thursday, for the Sunday Sports Voice. 1 week only. Not even a trial basis. Trial by fire. We'll see Dennis from 3 to 5 on Friday. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.